Green Bay is a small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family. We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Matt and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. Friendship, family, and football. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Freezer Podcast. We are back. This is the Freezer Podcast. I'm Sanjay.
And I'm Matt.
We are here. This is YouTube. It's spring. It feels good outside. And for all you guys that are watching us today, please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. And also, if you see that little bell there, it makes a notification about anything that we drop instantly.
Very
on
important.
The episodes. Absolutely, yeah. So you'll be on cue with us when we drop it. It's good. Let's get to the show. Matt, what are we talking about today?
Big topics, of course. We got the NFL draft tomorrow, which when you're listening to this will probably be today. So make sure you're checking this out and listening on. And then we're also going to talk about the Titletown District, the announcement this week with Mark Murphy, discussing their future plans, phase 2 going on, and then a little bit into what the Packers did this week. They had a mini camp and they had some media availability. So we'll talk about kind of what we saw there.
Awesome. So, yeah, let's talk about that Mark Murphy thing because it's kind of a nice topic because you and I were kind of texting back and forth. You know, what kind of does this mean for us, and then what does it mean for everybody else that comes into our city when, the season starts? Because let's just be honest. Like we said last week, it's dead season here when it's not Packer season.
It is, yeah.
You know what's happening. Your streets are pretty empty, and you can get around wherever you need to. But come, Packer training camp and Packer game days during the season, it's pretty busy on the weekends, and you don't even want to be on the west side. But with the new the tech series, or I guess the tech, what is it called, I guess? The
Tech Campus.
The Tech Campus, exactly, over at Titletown District. It's going to bring a wave of opportunities for the Green Bay Packers and what it could bring to us in the near future when you see expanding caps and the luxury tax kind of, widen.
These are good points because when we were talking about it, I've been kind of critical of this whole process. I understand and actually love that they're trying to develop this area further and make it more of a 365, area and venue instead of it just being in season. But my criticisms have been so far is it's all luxurious things. I mean, Lodge Kohler, that's not the Holiday Inn.
No.
You got
like $500 a night.
Yeah, Hinterland over there, which is a beautiful facility, good food, good drinks.
Yep.
But this is not a place that the common folk is making, their first stop at. This is a place where you bring clients to, you got family in town, you're trying to show them a good time. That's kind of where you go to. But for the blue-collar person here in town, how many repeat visits are they doing in Hinterland?
When you're charging about $10 to $15 to get people to go on a sled down a little dinky hill, it's a lot of money for just that. When you could just go to Fireman's Hill and just get it for free.
And because we paid for it already.
The football field is free. You can go on that. You can do the 40-yard dash. You can do pretty much anything on the field area for free, which is kind of nice. But it is kind of a cash grab kind of thing, especially even I know they do the ice rink too. I don't know I think it's $10 for renting skates, but then that's a long line just to get into that. But I understand it coming from a Packer fan that's not living in Green Bay. And that's
a destination now.
Because
not that it wasn't, but
we're always going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to money that is brought in because we're not the billionaire owners, right?
We're not New York City, we're not LA.
Pockets.
Right.
We don't have that, and this brings a different kind of feel to us because everything it's that kind of notion when you're just that grinding middle class worker when you work for every penny that you've earned. And that's the same thing as the Packers too. Like we go for every penny that we've earned, and it does look a little bit expensive in the pro shops and in the ticket pricing and the concessions.
Don't get me started in the pro shop. I could rant on that for hours.
Absolutely, and I think I understand. If it's 3 decades from now that we are just simply okay, that's fine. I just hope that they do incorporate the local business that helps, especially for those that do live here, the 100,000 that are here. Because you know what? We see it every day. we need to, be able to have that same sort of like privileges that everyone else kind of gets around the league. We mentioned that in our text, about Arthur Blank, about what he does with concessions. He makes it affordable. You want your people to come back constantly. Yes, Lambeau is obviously the allure, the city, the aura of Lambeau Field is big.
It's
but
the mecca for football, right? So you're
Right.
always going to have people that are coming in, not just, nationally, but internationally. I mean, I used to work at the Pro Shop, and I can't tell you how many people I met coming from England or, Germany, et cetera. People coming from all over the world just to, not even go to a game, but just to visit the place. So conceptually, the whole Lambeau district is awesome because now it's going to give people an extra day or two now of things to do instead of just, I want to go in there, do the tour, watch a game, and then I'm out. Now it kind of gives you an extra day of stuff to go do. I think that's kind of how it's going to be with this phase 2, and I don't know if this is the phase 3. Plus, they're going to be bringing in apartments. It sounds like they're going to draw a full-time residents to the area. I guess when I'm thinking about it, kind of as you were touching on, was it's a blue-collar town, it's a blue-collar team. But they're trying, because it's the NFL, it's ritzy, right? There's money, it's flashy. You want to try to compete with these larger markets. So they're doing that. And they've got some cool things. I mean, to bring in Microsoft, who's going to be developing or investing in startups in the area. Topgolf is going to have this suite now. And then, as I mentioned before, the luxury hotel and the luxury eatery, plus everything else. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. My worry is they're pricing out, the people that are going to be probably your most repeat customers. I mean, I know for me personally, I went to Hinterland one time. I have not been back, not because it wasn't good, but just I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend $15 on, one thing, why would I go somewhere else when I can get 3 things for $15? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, unless it's like, Gordon Ramsay level food, I'm just not coming back.
Bottom line, if those folks that you mentioned that are coming from Germany or England or China, whatever they are, they're not coming during the off season. They're coming during football season.
Yeah.
So you got to keep in consideration what traffic is coming in from February till July, and that's us. So we'll see what happens.
I think we can agree it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have our minor grievances with it, but I think I'd rather have this development than not have it.
I mean, there's bigger goals, obviously, if you want to get the NFL draft here, which it seems like we've already punched our ticket at least to get in that, talk. So hopefully in the next couple of years, maybe these luxury hotels get us that kind of, notoriety. So I think in the end, it's still going to be – I think the NFL wants it because they know what a cash grab this is when you come into Lambeau. I mean, for God's sakes, their opening night is 2 years in a row. It's been Sunday night last year with the Packers with 100 years, and now you have Chicago with their 100 years and the opening night Thursday night game. The NFL realizes what great stuff the Green Bay Packers can bring, and the fact that you see it in our Season 2 5 primetime games – people want to see the green and yellow.
It's must see. It's a must see team. It's a must see location.
As long as 12 is quarterback.
Well, hopefully that goes on for a while.
So we'll move on. It's obviously mini camps. It's funny because when you watch the interviews and you hear Rodgers say he hasn't been to some of these in so long.
He hasn't.
And it's kind of interesting because I didn't even think about it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He only comes during the OTAs or the summer times when the new rookies are there.
He used to do like the QB school when McCarthy was still here. I think he did some of that in like early April. But then when they would have mini camps, he dipped out until it was mandatory veteran presence.
But that goes to show you. I also saw, I think, Wes Hockowitz kind of talk about 100% attendance from the entire roster, which is huge. Absolutely. You don't have to worry about guys like Jalen Ramsey out in the leagues and whoever else is just not showing up. I know he has a family issue, but I'm just saying, you don't have to worry about that with the Green Bay Packers, which is huge because – there is a lot of egos and different, characteristics about people that, they could just dip out. Even a guy like a high-profile player like, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't have to come.
Well, there was a lot of Twitter debate this week about players being paid to work out, and the Packers in particular do this a lot with their contract structures where they actually they incorporate roster bonuses or performance bonuses based on your level of attendance to these voluntary workouts essentially.
Sure.
I think that's great. I don't know why you wouldn't want your guys to be in-house working out instead of being somewhere else. That way you're already in the building, you're furthering the culture and getting to know your teammates better as well as working with the coaches, and people kind of making fun of that. I'm like, well, why is that a problem? I would pay someone here to work out and that you're in-house.
That's the thing. These guys already know that they're the peak athletes of the sports world. They know that they can go out on a field and pretty much do what is asked of them, right?
Yeah.
But they need a little bit of incentive too. But I think it's a little bit more than that. I think you've heard it all over the interviews this week where the defense is year 2, but the offense is year 1. So I think it's obviously a big thing for Rodgers to be here, to be there with Nathaniel Hackett and Luke Getsy and obviously Matt LaFleur, and get that rep or get the reps in, get in the meeting rooms, get into the playbook, and understand what is going on, with this new system.
It's
because
huge.
In the end, you don't want to look with, you don't want to get there week 1 and have egg on your face, and then if you guys have seen any of the interviews, the second one that Matt LaFleur had this week talked about it was a little sloppy today, which is fine because that's expected.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that you don't want coming in August, 7th against the Texans, or August 8th, whatever day it's going to be. You don't want to look, like you have no idea what's going on.
Particularly because they've had the same coaching and they'll be all buttoned up, ready to go.
Exactly.
Whereas the Packers really need to, make the most of this. These mini camps and voluntary workouts, because this is when they're introducing the playbook to the players. They're finally getting the first taste of it. LaFleur said today they introduced like 20 more pass concepts. That's why things got sloppy. And you do have a young team, so the more time you can spend together, the better, as far as I'm concerned. If you have to pay guys to make that happen, why not?
And I think they want to be here too.
Yes.
I mean, there's obviously it's that first itch of being back. You've been sitting there waiting.
All
if
the
you
guys
didn't
are
make the
back.
playoffs, you were already waiting since December. So it's a different feel in Green Bay. Obviously, you've heard it throughout the locker room. Different lighting, different paint, different games and stuff, different music. It's good to see that there is a good vibe about the new coach, new leadership, and you can only take this so far because you got to put a good product on the field.
Sure.
So let's hope that everybody is getting their heads in the books, and the playbooks, and in the tape, because it's going to be everybody's going to be, all 70,000 people are going to be watching in Lambeau come August.
Yeah.
So
and I think one of the takeaways you and I were talking about was we noticed immediately sort of an extra bit of energy or pop to Aaron Rodgers when he's talking about being back here. He seems rejuvenated, and I think again we were saying stuff. I'm like, man, all last season he just felt like depressed, or he wasn't totally into it. He never really sounded enthusiastic. Granted they were losing games left and right. I wouldn't be too pumped either. But even early in the season last year, he kind of just seemed in a funk. So far, I do not get that vibe. I mean, he seems to really appreciate, having who's a QB coach we just brought back in, Luke Getsy,
right.
to have him back in the room. I think he's got a kind of a funny relationship with Nathaniel Hackett. They go way back. He said he worked him out in Tampa Bay.
Oh, his dad did. His dad did, yeah. 2005.
I just think, and I've said this multiple times in the show, one of the things I'm most excited about is the youth at coaching in the coaching regime here. Is they're going to better connect with the players instead of having, Mike being mid-50s and, Joe Philbin being mid-50s, having nothing in common with a 26-year-old kid. Now you got guys that are more so their age, more relatable. They're playing music during practice. I think these are the things that make the difference in terms of preparation and having a team that's ready to go come September.
It's good to hear also guys like Tay Adams that we're wearing today. It's good to see him and even Rodgers get kind of talk about how the playbook's challenging. It's getting them to think more, and that's what everybody was saying when he got hired. Matt LaFleur, is he going to challenge Rodgers?
Rodgers has said he's had to study more this offseason than he's ever had to before.
And that was the one thing that we always thought about Mike McCarthy. Does he have anything left to coach him? And I think that's the nice thing about having a new fresh blood in there.
Absolutely.
To kind of just give him a new path, in the quarterback mind, because
something
they're both
different
quarterbacks.
to stimulate his mind. If you're doing the same reads, the same verbiage, the same plays every year, how do you really make that fresh?
Right.
You can't, so I think after 13 years, it just got stale. You couldn't make it, exciting anymore. You had to kind of find that within, which obviously those guys do. They're pros, but having a whole new playbook and personalities to deal with is going to be, I just think it's going to be, almost unquantifiable in a way. It's going to be, I can't wait.
Absolutely. And I think, there's some other excitement that, is to be said is Cole Madison is back.
Yes.
It's really good, on a personal level. Let's just forget about football. It's just good to see a human being back in a locker room around people that do care about him. And I thought one quote that was just huge that I just absolutely almost like teared up on was, the Packers have my back. I'm going to have their back.
If you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it. Because I heard that too, and I'm like, that's really cool to hear.
That's what you want from your players, because in the end, they know that they're really here for a paycheck. They do love the game, but in the end, they know they're getting paid a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And, they're helping out their families. They're helping out themselves. They're bettering their lives, and they're playing a game, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, what is the game giving back to them other than, money? This is cool to see where a guy is willing to give his blood, sweat, and tears now for an organization that waited on him, not just cut him, not just leave him in the dust, but gave him the appropriate amount of time needed, to get himself right, get himself loving himself first, and then the game, and then making that decision, because that's huge.
It is. And, the Packers have always been a first-class organization. They do things the right way. They're never going to take risks or be kind of on the wrong side of right? So in today's day and age where, mental health is becoming more of a topic, and to have him, stand in front of cameras basically and answer questions on, well, why were we
it
gone?
was almost like a grill session.
Yeah,
Like,
and
they
he
kept
handled
asking
it
over and over
really
again.
well, and he was well-spoken, and he really made a point as to why I was gone, and that's why he said, they've had my back. No, I'm going to have theirs.
Right.
And that says everything in that.
And
that
I
one
like that
line.
he's taking a day-to-day approach. He wasn't getting too ahead of himself. Obviously, there's a long road ahead of him, especially going into training camp. So it's nice to think, okay, he's not just this rookie contract again.
Yeah.
Or rookie, I guess, first year, but he's taking it day by day because he has to grow as a human and as a player. But we'll see where his growth goes, and I think it's the sky's the limit for him too, because he's a fourth rounder. And I think he can bring a lot to the,
Well, in particular to a unit that needs people. I mean, he would have been
Right.
very valuable last year, which I think, again, speaks volumes to the Packers, basically saying, hey, man, get yourself right, do what you need to do,
Yeah, we need him.
and come back when you're ready.
Right.
In a win-now league, I mean, I think we would be surprised as to internal pressure from teams, maybe other players in similar situations that have been basically said, no, you need to be here and deal with it.
Well, think about it. We have 10 picks. We just got 11. I mean, obviously, I don't think you're going to use all 10 this year or I guess this weekend. But you just got an extra rookie back in camp,
Essentially.
mini camp.
Because I think
So,
people thought he wasn't going to come back at all. A
Exactly.
year away
So-
from football, I mean, it's detrimental.
it's a win-win, and overall in this entire week, getting everybody back, and in these interviews, the nice thing too was, I love that they kind of mentioned, we're not looking at forgetting the past.
Right.
We're looking at the future, and we're about the 2019 Packers, and that's a new thing to kind of talk about too, because I think you're right. The Green Bay Packers, everybody knows its tradition and its history, and it's the guys in the Ring of Honor. Everybody knows it. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the 2019 Packers, and I like that. That's kind of that's the focus.
What was his quote again? It was like, obviously the Packers are rich in history, but we're here to make history.
Right, absolutely.
Which I thought was really cool because, I mean, everybody that comes in here, they're always talking to him about, the 60s and the 70s and Packers and this and that and how everything goes. But for him to kind of say, we acknowledge that, but we're here to blaze our own trail now, and it starts right now.
Right.
We want to make history, and I love that about LaFleur. He seems to fully embrace what the Packers are, what they've meant, but he wants to put his own stamp on this, and he wants to join the history. He wants to be mentioned with Lombardi and McCarthy and Holmgren and all the greats that came before him. He wants to be that, and he wants his players to want that. So to put that message out right now, I think that's something that could really carry through the season. Could be a rallying cry.
That could be I guess,
Make your own history.
The galvanizing moment for the 2019 season, as much as we love that term. But I think it's nice to see. Also, LaFleur's not getting ahead of himself either. He knows that this is going to be a grind. He's been in and out of. I mean, what did he mention? His kids and family is all
Still
in
in
Nashville,
Nashville,
right?
yeah.
So he's every day in that office and working on things. He said he's going to be there all day tomorrow, even though they only have meetings tomorrow and maybe weight room. And then he's got to just stay there the whole day, and then he's got the draft that night. So it's awesome to see the grind of a 39-year-old, and I think that's what's cool about having a young coach that with McCarthy, there's all respect towards him, and I have no ill will to him. But at the same time, when you get kind of like used to the same thing over and over, you get kind of
complacent, and he would be pissed at that.
shortcuts.
Yeah.
You get massages, constantly. So I think it's interesting to see someone that's so desired to prove everybody that this is the right choice. I'm not this guy that just bounced around from, the Sean McVay tree or the Kyle Shanahan tree.
Yeah.
I'm
not
LaFleur.
them, I'm me.
Exactly.
And he's out to prove it.
And guys like Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, obviously Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay all made their own stamps on the NFL.
Yeah.
it's good to see, what we can see from him on the league too, because you know what? You have it so much easier than those guys. I mean, maybe you could argue Kyle Shanahan kind of had Jimmy G, but he lost him right away. But you have Aaron Rodgers. Like, you have it as good as it gets. You don't have some rookie guy that you have to groom and teach him, football and quarterbacks. You have the quarterback of the NFL right there at your disposal.
Exactly.
Just use them how you will. So, with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about our mocks. We have a little a 4-pick mock that we do not know each other's stuff, so it's good.
Get
a
ready
little
to
bit
laugh
of
at each other.
secrecy, and maybe we sent the scouts home.
Yeah.
So it's the war room is locked. So when we come back, you'll get to see our mocks.
Hey, Packer fans. How you doing? It's Matt from the Freezer Podcast. I am guessing some of you out there are superhero fans, and if you are like me, you might be going to see Endgame this coming week at 10:55 at night and realizing that it is a 3-hour movie, so you probably have some extra time to think about how this movie came to be about and need to catch up a little bit on the heroes presented in there. So I think you need to head down to Powers Comics, 2180 South Ridge Road here in Green Bay. You can find all the different comics from Iron Man, Thor, you name it, they got it. Different collectibles, memorabilia, posters, whatever you need, they're going to have it. And that way it'll make your wait for the movie much better. Again, Powers Comics, 2180 South Ridge Road. All right, welcome back. Join again with Sanjay here at Sanjay X Murthy on Twitter. I am Matt X Jensen on Twitter.
Absolutely.
I definitely made mine first with the X in there.
Yeah, and then I was just a Twitter noob, and I'm like, what do I do? And then you just said, pick whatever. And I was like, well, I'll pick what you have.
Well, as Sanjay said to open the show, we do have a YouTube channel now. Search for us, The Freezer Podcast. We're going to start putting up the videos here. You guys
Hit
can follow
subscribe.
On. Yeah, as you would say, smash that subscribe button. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're thrilled to be on YouTube. This is kind of an
It's a fun little venture. Yeah, we got to thank Quincy over here. He's obviously doing a great job manning all this stuff for us because we are kind of done with that. And editing everything that you guys see. We have other guys in the background too that are helping. Andrew, you guys know him. He helped us out last week on the show. So a lot of people are in the mix here. And we want to just thank them, obviously, big time.
For sure. All right, so as promised, we're going to get into some draft talk here. Before Sanjay and I go ahead and give us, you guys our, well-researched mock drafts that are definitely going to come true. Just kind of want to talk about, I guess, it generally before we do that with the Packers. So very, very, very important day today if you're listening. The Packers do have 10 draft picks, which I think is third most in the league behind a couple other teams. But per usual, they'll be adding a slew of players here. Lots of draft capital to move up and down to find guys that they need. Most importantly, they do have 4 picks in the top 3 rounds. So great potential now to add some blue chip players, some guys that are really going to impact the team immediately. It's a deep draft. A lot of people saying it's not a sexy draft because it's kind of really defensive front heavy, O-line heavy. I get that, but that said, that's what the Packers need, so this is lining up pretty well.
Yeah, I was reverting that one. I was like, you know what? Hang on. Time out with this, sexiness stuff. I think it's the eye of the beholder, right? And I think,
sure,
if you're really looking at it from a fantasy output or maybe just the highlighted players that make all the oohs and ahs or, the guys that hold the trophies of Heisman's and stuff. Yeah, of course, maybe it's not that highlighted, but you know what? Like you said, there's so much depth everywhere, and the fact that you can see, almost 10 to 12 names strong at certain positions, it's a good draft. And I think – go ahead.
Well, I'll say if you're a casual fan, it lacks, like, the star power. Like I referenced this on Twitter today saying, like, well, there's no Baker Mayfield or Saquon
right.
Barkley. Some really – everybody knows who that guy is, even if you're a part-time football fan. But for those of us, reading about this constantly, it's actually going to be a pretty good draft, and that's why I think we're all really excited for the Packers because they do have they're in position to pick some players, move around, get some more picks, and really improve the team.
Yeah, and before we get into that, let's take a step back. This is an amazing weekend. There's so much build up to the free agency.
Super Bowl of the offseason, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Like
Basically.
Everybody wants to know, if they can retain some of their guys in March, maybe get some new blood in and, see how you can make your team a Super Bowl caliber team. But this is one aspect that also helps you on the depth side. I think people have to realize the NFL draft is not where you're getting the players that you're just going to instantly get complete success and impact all the time. Yeah, there's a couple of guys out there that will make some, production in
Sure.
your offense or your defense, or special teams. But for the most part, these guys are, these are babies. They don't understand what the nuances are in the NFL. They need to learn. They need to get experience. They got to learn from the vets. They got to learn from coaches. A lot of them need that time to just groom. And so that's what you're getting with these players. They're all, young, 21, 20-year-olds sometimes, players that it's a cool thing to see because this is the one weekend that changes all of their lives.
Yeah.
And, it's obviously a big spectacle on Thursday night because, it's the best top players of college football coming in. But, the same impact is still on day 2 and day 3 as well for all those people that are not at the actual event show. But this is a cool moment for Packer fans because here's the thing. For the last, I know you mentioned this on Twitter, for like the last decade or so, we don't pick this early. These last couple of years we have been, but that's due to an Aaron Rodgers injury.
We haven't picked 12 this high probably since we had the B.J. Raji draft back in, what was that, 2000?
Right, the year 3 and 13 year or whatever it was, or 6
We picked
and 10.
9th that year. This is 12. So to kind of segue into it, there are a lot of options with what Green Bay can do. I don't think there's a consensus route. There's not a consensus blueprint as to what they should do.
Because of March, it helps when you do things in March.
It does help, and the fact that they signed a couple of key free agents to fill a couple of holes really made what they can do at picks 12, really all of them, 30, 44, et cetera, much more flexible to move around and get guys. Maybe instead of having to plug an immediate need, they can get a guy for depth or get draft a player they maybe wouldn't normally draft.
Which it feels like, the last few years, it seems like we were always drafting at need. Even last year when we had some pull, with corner, we needed a corner. And then obviously Josh Jackson fell to us. So that was just kind of hey, we just got to get this guy because he's valued so high. But, it seems like for the last 5 years, it always felt like we need this, we need this. Right now, we don't need everything, but there's some things that can help.
Yeah.
But now we can just draft best player available.
It's kind of like at every position they have somebody. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're going, well, we literally have no running back or if Devontae Adams are gone, we have no clear-cut number. You know what I mean? They don't have that going on, but they do have spots where they need to have a successor or they need to pair safety with, Adrian Amos, things like that. So kind of as you're looking at it, Sanjay, what are you sort of thinking the Packers might be considering in that first round? I mean, are you thinking they're looking at defense? Because when you have the 12th pick, odds are you're going to have one of those marquee players possibly fall to you. You have a shot to finally get a guy that is a day one starter. Or you can move around. You can find someone that's a filler. Kind of what's the vibe you're getting? What are you thinking?
So are we officially getting into our mocks now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not
All
yet.
right. So I feel like the direction, without giving too many, breadcrumbs away, I think you have to look at the offensive side because, you've always drafted defense. I think, 7 straight years?
I don't know the last time they went offense. I really don't.
I think it's Derek Sherrod. I really think it is. And I think you have to start wondering, when are you going to give some help to Aaron Rodgers? You've helped him on the defensive side in March, and you got Jimmy Graham, 2 years ago. But, I think it's a big thing where you need to find players that can impact the offensive side of the game, because here's the thing, that offense looked pretty bad, and is that in counterpart to Mike McCarthy's stale offense, maybe the Ted Thompson draft. Personnel, exactly, not bringing enough depth. But here's the thing, now you have some luxury picks, you have a free one from the Saints. This is where you can get some value and get some red and, blue chip players right away that can impact the offense and get the offense going. Because here's the thing, those first 4 weeks, it's been piss poor usually until there's the 1 year before Rodgers got hurt with the collarbone. We were 4-1
cruising. He was 4-1 before the Viking game. Yeah,
you have to get him protection because obviously you saw it right away opening night against the Bears. Like they just demolished us right up in the middle, and then whether you believe Billy Turner is the question or the answer at right guard or not, you still have to find some needs. But this is going to be where I think you're going to see some offense right away. but we'll see.
I think, you're tipping your hat a little bit to where you're thinking, but I think maybe you and I end up being a little bit more similar with what we decide on, because I kind of have a similar view of it. Like, they've been drafting defense for years and years and years, right? They're in year 2 now of Mike Pettine's system. Of course, you're probably going to add a couple of guys, but I think it's time for that unit to try to stand on its own a little bit and rise to the level they should be playing at, because it's not like the Packers haven't been drafting constant defense the last better part of a decade, right? I mean, you have a whole a whole draft class wiped out from 2015.
God, yeah, that's
so,
bad.
which is why they had to dip into free agency finally this
Right.
year. But it's time now that you retool that offense. You got 4, maybe 5 years left, if you're lucky, of relevant Aaron Rodgers play. They have to put players around him, particularly because he's getting a little bit older. He's no longer the guy that's going to extend plays as he used to. Maybe his legs aren't as good. Get guys around him to make his job a little bit easier. I think they've
Yeah,
done
you can just sit in the pocket.
Yes, they've done a poor job of reloading their talent. They've bled their talent out. They've lost Jordy, Cobb, all these integral players that have been around Rodgers making him successful are gone, and in their place comes back like what? A couple of 7th round or EQ, MVS, and Jamon Moore. What's a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick? I mean, hey, they might have potential and they may come into their own and be good. But for being honest here, they're not like the top echelon players, not guys that are going to get it right away and be game changers, maybe down the line. But I'm with you, man. I think that they need to get more offensive players in here, and they need to start right now.
Yeah, and I think we'll see if we can do. I mean, here's the thing too. You're also getting some players to solidify your future too. You don't know what's going to happen with Mike Daniels. He needs to get paid.
Exactly.
Brian Bulaga, obviously, depending on what he can give you this season, is huge because he's also on a contract year. Corey Linsley's on a contract year. You have all these kind of players that you may not be able to bring back in with all the kind of contracts you have already out there. You got to start looking at that as well.
Well, good GMs will not only draft, with this next immediate season in mind, they'll also draft with 2, 3, 4 years down the line.
Absolutely. There's no one's
They're
bigger
very
than the Packers.
calculated.
Even Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yes, he is the franchise, but they also understand that you might see a quarterback draft this year, or you might see it for sure next year.
Yeah. Well, let's segue into this. I spent a good chunk of my day today.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah. Formulating this mock draft, I probably went over like 10, 15, 20, felt like 50 scenarios before I finally settled on it. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to regret most of these picks anyways. So I did 2 different scenarios. One, I think we did where we basically did it where we picked straight up, with no trades involved. And then we did another one, right, with we factored a trade or 2 in.
Right, of course.
So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll go first rounder, right? We're going to go back and forth?
Yeah, let's
okay,
go back.
All right.
Your 12, my 12.
So, assuming the Packers stick at 12, and even though I just ranted about they need offensive players, they are in a spot to land a marquee defender.
Okay.
And we signed Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, who are, I think, more power rushers. They're not known for their speed, right?
Sure.
So I think the Packers need to add a speed rusher that will just diversify that rush even more. And with this medical report that came out, he may slide a little bit. With the 12th pick, the Packers are selecting Montez Sweat.
All right. Well, do you realize also that it is the coldest games in December? Remember what happened with Eddie Lacy and his little asthma attacks that he would have? And then you didn't see him anymore.
If his doctors cleared him, this guy
That's a
could
huge
be which it sounds like they have.
Have they? So
Yeah.
that's what the one thing I was wondering if that happened.
I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying that, but I haven't heard otherwise.
Because that's going to be the news that everybody's going to be like, okay, he goes back on a board.
He's been playing with it,
Right. Well,
and at a high level. And I just think that because of those signings, he doesn't have to be a 3-down player.
that's a pretty big mortgage of the future just to hope that he can play with it. But I'm fine with it.
Assuming
I
so.
like his talent.
This
He's
is
a beast.
all assuming he's fine, because if
Yeah.
he is, the guy is a stud.
Absolutely.
Quick around the edge. He's powerful. He's lanky. He can be kind of that yin and yang to the Smiths, where you have the power rushers, and you can bring him in and get around that tackle quick.
And you know what? That
could be a game changer.
That solves your Mike Daniels problem too, if he indeed walks. So
Yes.
All right, my pick 12. I go Chris Lindstrom.
Okay.
I'm going with the guy that plays every single position. He plays guard, he plays tackle, and he has played center. You don't know what you're going to have if Lindsley's going to outprice you. Obviously, he is one of the highest graded centers.
He was.
With J.C. Treader, actually. J.C. Treader was 2. He is 1.
Yeah.
He has not missed a snap in 2 years. So this is a guy that actually is valuing himself pretty high now, and you don't know if you can bring him back. So I think if you can get a guy that has good experience at that position and who can plug and play everywhere else too.
Which is important to the Packers. They love guys that are athletic.
Absolutely. I think that just solidifies you on the offensive line. And I think I've seen it from the run the table year to 2014 to 2018 last year, where we just had these offensive lines where it's just musical chairs of guys just getting plugged in, here and there, and you're just hoping that, Lane Taylor can play left tackle for some reason.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if they could just stay healthy, the unit as is would be good, but
it doesn't happen.
Some of those guys are missing time. So
exactly.
I know offensive line has been really discussed the last couple of weeks amongst kind of the Packer bloggers, and it makes a lot of sense.
And you can really plug in a lot of these guys, and I was really high on Andre Dillard. He really does make sense with the zone run scheme. But Chris Lindstrom, to me, the fact that he can be at multiple positions, that's something that the Packers really value.
Huge. All right, so moving on to number 30 here, Packers picking at the end of the first round. This is where I'm going to start to make my run on offense. I'm going to have the Packers taking Noah Fant there at number 30. That's pretty popular pick.
Yeah.
I had thought about going receiver there, but that'll come later. I think that it's pretty well known and common knowledge at this point that Jimmy Graham is most likely on just a one-year deal here. I don't think he sees you number 3. And Mercedes Lewis is purely here to block, assuming they use him, unlike Mike McCarthy. And then you have Robert Tonyan still developing. So I think Noah Fant will be a favorite target of Rodgers. They can use him in kind of as a slot, outline tight end. Not so much a blocker, but I think that they need to, again, bolster that offense, get some weapons on there, and he makes a lot of sense stretching that field.
I'm going to go with the uncommon and disappointing pick that probably Packer fans don't ever want to see. I'm going another offensive lineman.
Wow. Put me to sleep.
I know. It's not sexy. It's really not. And this goes against completely everything that the guy on Twitter said. So I really think in the end, you need to just bolster an offensive line. You've seen Dallas. You've seen Washington. You've seen Philadelphia.
New England.
You've seen New England.
Tom Brady's never on his ass.
You just have to make sure that Aaron Rodgers is always upright. And I don't care how many guys get hurt, you can plug another one in. And then people are like, man, how many times are they going to just have another guy that comes in and then he's just – there's not a drop-off. And I think Dalton Reisner – a nasty player, very, very violent.
Tone setter.
Absolutely. He can play tackle. He can solidify something that Brian Bulaga, if he does go down, which I feel like is inevitable by week 5.
You know it.
He can come in, plug and play. The guy will have enough experience in there until Bulaga gets hurt that he can at least give you some. It's not going to be a big dip off, but it's at least enough where he can keep Rodgers upright.
I love how it's just an assumed thing that we're going to lose Bulaga for a quarter of the season.
Which is so bad,
but it's history.
Shout out to Brian Bulaga. If you're watching, I'm really sorry, but you always get hurt. So
we still like you, though.
We still do.
All right. Well, I mean, that makes sense for offensive line. I mean, like you said, having Aaron Rodgers in his late career not getting touched is huge. We obviously see the impact it has when he's not playing for large stretches of time.
Right.
All right. On to pick 44, round number 2. I'm having the Packers taking wide receiver Deebo Samuel, who I think is going to be a pretty special playmaker in the NFL. I'm scared to death if Devontae Adams goes down, because then you're faced with the prospect of Geronimo Allison, who I have no problem with, but then you got Jamon Moore, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Valdez-Scantling, who, again, I have no issues with these guys, but I'm not about to go into a stretch of games with that being my 3 to 4 options. No way. They need to get more receivers in here, get back to the way things were when you had 4, 5, 6, 7 options of playmakers to go through. So keep Aaron Rodgers happy. Get some guys in there that are going to make some plays. Deebo Samuel's my man.
All right, you know what? We finally agree on something. I am going wide receivers as well.
And
I am all about helping Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going with wide receiver from Ole Miss, A.J. Brown.
Okay, I like A.J. Brown.
I really like this guy. I think he's the better version of, the
DK?
of the DK.
He's just not as ripped.
He can exactly. He can actually run more than one route. So, DK is going to be a good receiver somehow, and so. I think A.J. Brown gives you another guy that can just be opposite of Devontae, which, like you said, someone that can come in when if for God knows, if he does get hurt.
I hope he doesn't miss any time.
Right.
Devontae.
I mean, we're wearing him right now.
You're gonna play. You're gonna play all 16 games.
But AJ Brown just is an impact player. He can make big plays. His yak is just amazing.
Yep.
I just think it's just another little toy for Rodgers to have. And you know what? In an offense like LaFleur's and in an offense that you've seen in Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, you need more playmakers.
I love A.J. Brown. The Packers actually used one of their pre-draft visits on him. So when I was doing my mocks, he was in a bunch of them. So I'm with you 100%. Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown at 44. Would love it. On to 75 here. Their first third rounder, right?
Yeah, third rounder. Yep.
I really toyed with this one.
They only have one. They only have the one third round.
Okay, we don't have multiple. So I had a combination of either an offensive lineman here, Chris Lindstrom, or possibly a safety, Amani Hooker. I don't know who's going to be available there. It's really a crapshoot. It could be one of those guys.
It makes me feel a little bad that you're talking about a guy that you can maybe get in the third, and I'm taking him with the 12th overall pick, so I'm a little nervous. But
the thing is, I look at some big boards, and you don't know who to really trust, right?
I mean,
some of these guys are in the top 30, some in the top 60, 70. I think conceptually, I'm just saying O-lineman there or safety.
Okay, I get you. All right, so, and you know what? If you're going to insert safety, just let's get the bloodline in there, and let's get Nasir Adderley in there, because you know what? If he rocks that 26, which is available, it would be kind of cool. But I am going with a tight end. You went Noah Fant early. I'm going with Jay Sternberger.
Okay.
A guy that they did bring in, very intelligent, kind of like George Kittle in a way. Maybe not as fast, but great hands, has the ability to block, which is
a good
huge.
value at 70.
Very exactly. That's why I think with pick 75, you have to understand that there's going to be a point where there's going to be some value with some of these guys. When you don't have Hawk, that's the thing. If Hawkinson's available at 12, I think I'm taking him regardless. I'm running my card up.
I think he's going to be there. It just feels weird taking a tight end at 12.
That's the only one I value that high.
Yeah.
That's why I'm taking a tight end that late. No offense to Noah Fant. I think he's a great player, and I think he can stretch.
Not as versatile.
And he's just not as versatile. Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're not going to get that versatility, then you can get a different premier position at that point. So I'm like, you know what? I'll get someone that's closely similar. Obviously, a little bit of a downgrade.
Sure.
But I think in Matt LaFleur's offense, guys will be open anyway in the system that they're running. So that's my pick.
I like it. Good value there. With Noah Fant at 30, to me it's more like if they don't get him there, then you're looking at Irv Smith, who I think is just a little bit undersized at 6'2".
Yeah.
I prefer my tight ends to be a little bit bigger because you're going to be going up against linebackers who are typically
the red zone is obviously huge.
Exactly.
You get the fade route.
So Sternberger is really good value there in the third or fourth round. I'm with you.
So we have our other mock now.
Yeah, the other mock.
Our trade mock, our more crazy things that are happening kind of mock.
This is what I'm most interested in because I want to – Sanjay, if you don't know Sanjay really well, he likes to be the GM. So he likes to move and up and down in the draft. So this is his
the guy that would go into Madden's and go look up a spreadsheet just to get different value players at the highest overall. There was a systematic thing that you get on the World Wide Web. And it would give you, if you got a guy, if there's a quarterback from Wisconsin in the fourth round, then you have this draft.
Yep.
And then this guy
cheating the
I
game,
would go
basically.
over to his house, and we're just getting stacked rosters in the draft.
His potential's an A. He'll be at 90.
And he's calling me out about being this GM. This guy is as skeezy as it gets, and that's what GMs are. They're skeezy guys.
Yeah, they are. So I think with this, due to time, we'll just sort of run through our scenario if that's cool with you.
Yeah,
all right, so again, Packers have the 12th overall pick. So what I'm going to have them doing here, assuming that Kyler Murray does not go number 1 to the Cardinals, he's going to fall to 4, which the Oakland Raiders will then take him at number 4.
Okay.
Which the Raiders would have spent probably on a premier defensive player, right? So I have the Packers trading back to 24. So they get the Raiders' 24th pick and they get the 35th pick. Now I looked up the points. The 12th is worth 1,200, and they also trade number 114 and number 194 for a total of 1,280 points. In return, they get pick 24, which is 740, and pick 35, which is 550.
He calls me the GM guy, yet he's point valuing over here. So I mean,
it's a fair trade. So
it's like you're going to Aldi with coupons.
Yes,
like,
I didn't pull this out of my butt. This is a real trade that could happen. So Packers pick at 24. Shocker, we're going to pick Greedy Williams, the 6'3" corner out of LSU. I am not sold at all on Kevin King. He is yet to finish a full season. He's finished both seasons on the IR. Josh Jackson appears to be a little bit more of a slow learner. There's speculation he could get moved to safety. So I think the Packers are going to snag Greedy Williams at 24 to pair with Jair Alexander, who will be a stud. They still have pick 30. I'm going to stay with Noah Fant there because I like that. At 35, then, the other Raiders pick they get, Dalton Reisner.
No, this is your second round pick, though.
Yeah, 35 second round.
Okay.
So Dalton Reisner, he may not be there, but I'm thinking tackle there. At 44, my boy Debo. So you're adding Debo and Fant, and then rounding it out with Juan Thornhill at free safety at 75. So you get, again, Greedy Williams at 24 to complement Jair. You have that DB room done. You got your two boys. You got Fant to join the tight ends, Debo to go in the wide receiver room, and then Juan Thornhill to pair with Adrian
I mean,
Amos.
that's pretty sexy. Like if
If that happens, I'm doing a backflip.
That's the one scenario where you're trading down and you're like loving it. And
Yeah.
I'm
It's a deep
impressed.
draft, right?
So I don't even know if I should even say mine, but I'm going to stick with a guy falling that I just think would be a world difference on the defensive line, and that's Ed Oliver. I
would love that.
I just feel like this guy is a nasty guy, just like Kenny Clark, and you pair him in there. You have your security with Mike Daniels.
Yep.
So I'm going with him at 12. At 30, we are in agreement. I am with Noah Fant.
There you go.
And I just think in the end, sometimes you just have to make that boom pick and just get a guy that you know is going to just be a playmaker.
It's going to work.
And you know what? Might as well just waste the pick that you just got for free from St. Or
That's
from,
kind of what I'm
New
thinking.
Orleans.
Like, take a guy you normally wouldn't do. It's not necessarily a freebie, but just spend it on something
it's a luxury
extra.
pick.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
So with pick 45, I'm going with the bloodline. I'm going with Nasir Adderley. I think you need to pair someone with Adrian Amos. And I think you need a guy that isn't afraid to be in the box and tackle, but is able to cover downfield. So I'm going with him, and I'm sticking with my my third round pick with AJ Brown. I'm trading back up to get into the second round. I'm giving away my third round and a fourth to get back into the second round to get AJ Brown to pair with my other second round pick. So there are my 4 picks. I think we both tackle everything that we really need.
They're very similar, just different names.
I went D-line, you went O-line, but I think it's something that's that we need. And I honestly do like it more and more where we are trading back maybe and getting more picks, because there's, like you mentioned earlier in text, like there's so much more things that we need that I wish we had more picks.
Well, the way I kind of look at it is this. If one of those, an Ed Oliver or, Montez Sweat, whatever, one of those true blue chip players with there's only a handful do fall to 12, at that point you do take them. But if none of them fall to 12, I think trading back is a great idea. I know people hate that, but in this draft, where those first couple of rounds are stacked with talent, where you can get really good guys in the third round, getting an extra second round pick or third round pick and moving back, 10 whatever spots in the first round and still getting a really good player there, I think is a fantastic idea. In this draft, to me, it's more the merrier, particularly in those first couple of rounds. I mean, I don't know that they'll do that, but if they ended up with one of these two scenarios, I mean, I think you couldn't do any better.
We'll see, right? Tomorrow is the day. It's going to be an exciting, 3 days. I'm so excited for this because
Our team's getting better.
It's exactly. It can only get better, right? It can't get worse.
Football Christmas.
So I think it'll be a fun weekend, and these mocks, as crazy as they are, they're probably not even going to come close. It'd be cool to get one hit.
I don't know how people do that stuff for a living. That's stressful.
Mike Mayock, that's why he got a GM job, because he was hitting so much. But if I get one of these guys on my list, in any of the mocks I've done, I also have one on the Lombardi Lounge. Check it out. I have one there. So if it happens, that's super cool. But if it doesn't, whatever. As long as they're good, I don't care. I just want good players.
Have faith in Goody. I think he's going to be a fantastic GM. He already is. Whatever they do, it's in the best interest of the Packers. I'm not going to try to outsmart them and tell them. Unless they're picking a punt in the third round, I think that they're going to do pretty well. So let's get behind them. Let's support who they get in here. And I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. So, guys, we want to just thank you guys so much for following us. It really means a lot, especially for those who are subscribing below, because this is a YouTube channel, and you can hit that like button because these videos are likable. I'm going to say that right now. We're likable guys. And you know what?
Sometimes.
You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. You can find him at Matt X Jensen on Twitter. You can find me at Sanjay X Murthy on Twitter. You can also find me on the Lombardi Lounge. I do a lot of work through them. But we want to thank, everybody that helps us with the team. We got Quincy. We have his friend Joe that helped us out today. Thank you so much. We have Andrew on the back end. He couldn't make it today, and Colin. So thank you guys. We can't do this without you. And you know what? I'm Sanjay.
And I'm Matt.
Go Pack Go.
Day ones, no time for fake ones. Got me, I got you. All dreams, they come true. Stay down till the end. Need me, I need